Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's hanging?
What's hanging, what's cracking, what's popping?
What's cracking? My name's Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon with me, as always, Poppin' Rick.
What's going on?
We got some good stuff to get to. Rick and I, for the last couple of weeks to start the season, normally this show is recorded on Wednesday on the week, but the last couple of weeks we've been doing it on Thursday. So I was like, oh, football's on. No, it's not. Football is not on tonight.
No,
and
no football.
You might be watching this, and there's football on tonight for you.
Yes.
But for me, there is no football on tonight. I'm also going to a giant fair on Thursday. So.
Oh, yeah. Are you even going to watch Thursday Night Football?
I don't know. I mean, probably on the way home. But, I mean, there's also I love the Lions, man. I want to watch that game. I want the Packers to get pantsed by the Detroit Lions. I told everyone you picked the Lions, by the way. Did you pick the Lions?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did pick the Lions.
So when I go back and we have to do the
What did you pick?
The Lions.
Okay, good.
I got to keep this.
Watch the Packers win. They might.
The Packers might win, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I mean, after last week, and all bets are off. Do they have this is irrelevant to when people listen to this, but do they have Jair Alexander playing?
That's a good question.
Because he was out last week.
Right now, Aaron Jones and Watson are questionable, but from what they're saying, beat writers expect both those guys to be back.
Okay.
So the Packers might be.
Should I trade for Aaron Jones?
I would.
Go, Pack, go. All right. So anyway, welcome to the pod. We got weekly starts and sits today. We got the starts and sits for week 4. So we're going to give you advice on that. And then the next episode we got trade targets. So guys you want to get on your team, and then guys you want to send on their merry way. But before we jump into starts and sits, check out our website, fantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platforms, please leave a review. Share this pod with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. Click the bell for notice, like, and comment down below any questions you may have for us, start and sit related. Friends, I know you're listening. Ask those questions.
Yeah, who do I start? Devin A. Chain after his big week.
Okay.
Or Christian McCaffrey?
Definitely Devin A. Chain.
Yeah, he scored 50, so he's going to do it again, right?
Yeah. Watch him score
Thanks
like
for
8
the
points
advice.
this week.
What, 1 point? Is that what you just said?
I said 8.
Oh, yeah. I actually, I don't want to jinx it, but I feel like he probably will.
Yeah, dude, he's going to poop himself.
There's no way if he goes out and gets like 20-something.
It's all bets are off. He's QB1.
All bets are off. Pants are off.
He might be RB1 on the season at that point. Not at prediction.
Now I have a question.
I just mean,
as
like,
someone
physically, like if he scores 20 points, he probably would be the number 1 running back in fantasy football.
He'd be up there. He'd probably be top 5.
Unless Raheem Mostert.
Because he's RB5 right now, right?
What?
I think he's RB5 on the season.
Yeah, he might jump. Unless Raheem Mostert goes
if
off.
A-Chain goes out this week and gets 7 fantasy points, are you worried or not really?
No, I'm not worried because I think the talent is there.
Okay.
It showed. And at some point, Mostert is going to get hurt.
I agree.
That's an interesting question, though. Yeah.
Because I'm someone who has A-Chain who's probably starting him this week. Because how can you not? Let's be honest.
Yeah. Oh,
after this
he
last week.
Can't stare at. Now, I will say he might be might not be a great matchup against Buffalo.
I don't love it, but at the same time, like I can't let him sit on my bench and then he gets like 30. Like I just can't. I will accept him sucking this week.
You can't do that again.
I can't do that again. No, I will accept him if he gets like 8 points. I'll accept it because I'm like, all right, at least I tried.
See, when I see players
if I have him sit on my bench and he gets 30, I'm gonna be I can't do that.
When I see players like A-Chain on my team, I get excited. See, Rick was like, oh, I should have started. I'm like, were you even thinking about it?
Did I not, though, text you 20 minutes before 1 o'clock?
You did not.
Who should I start between Dotson and Roshan Johnson?
That is true.
I literally could have started anyone at my second flex this week because I had so many injuries.
A-Chain was not in that conveation.
He wasn't, but before I texted you that,
because
I was
a week
at my
before
bench,
he had 1 point and he had like 20% of the snaps.
Exactly. That's why I didn't include him.
Yeah. So I'd just be happy that he did what you wanted him to do, and at worst, he's a trade target.
True.
You can sell.
That's true.
So anyway, let's get you some starts and sits and send you on your way and get prepared for week 4. Starting to get to crunch time for fantasy football. My God, if you've gone 0-4 at this point, I apologize for any advice you haven't taken from us. Because if you're
I will say I'm looking at the starts and sits from last week.
Did we suck?
I did okay.
Oh no.
I don't know if you did.
Okay, all right. I was gonna say, did you look at mine? That sounded like you looked at mine and said,
I am looking at yours. Sucks. It doesn't look good.
Okay, let's just move on to this week.
I think it was like week 2 or week 3, and you were like, dude, you got to do better on your starts and sits. So
yeah, no, I choked.
I'm not going to say that I'm doing better and you're not, but
suck an egg, bro. All right, let's do some starts and sits. I'll start. We'll start with the quarterback position as we usually do. I'll start with my quarterback start of the week, which is Russell Wilson.
Whoa, let him cook
at Chicago. So Chicago is butt. Like they are.
They're
not really any good. So as a team, and a lot of problems going on in Chicago. Rick and I could do a whole podcast on Justin Fields. Maybe we should just do a whole extra show for these people on Justin Fields and tell you what the frig to do with that dude, because I like him. I still like Justin
Fields. Like him.
Yeah, no one else does. So, I was like, I've been trying to get Justin Fields for weeks in my home league, right? Weeks.
I don't love him.
It's 3 weeks in the season. I'm saying weeks like as in every single week. And so the person who was trying to trade him, I told him, I said, every week goes by, he's only going to get worse. Unfortunately,
Which
I'm right.
Which is kind of true.
So he's like, no, I'm going to hold on to him. So he texted me this week and he said, I'll give you him for a bag of rocks. And I said, what's a bag of rocks, dude? And he said, I don't know. And then I said, I offered him somebody that I was planning on dropping, and he said no. And I was like, you asked me to offer you a bag of rocks. I gave you a bag of rocks.
Yeah.
What do you expect from me? I'm like, what do you expect? I'm going to give you my RB1? For a quarterback averaging 15 points per game? That's not.
He doesn't have a quarterback.
No, he doesn't. He wants a quarterback, and I'm gonna hold on to Anthony Richardson and hope that his brain recovers.
That's probably a good idea.
Probably a good idea. But anyway, so Russell Wilson at Chicago. I don't know how that. I just started talking about the Chicago Bears. But Russell Wilson, actually, he's had a little bit of a resurgence. If you watch him play football, he's actually been, okay. He's been putting it together. He's got 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's doing all right. So he's had 17, I'm going to correct this, 15, 26, and 15 so far this year. And he's going up against Chicago, who is one of the least tough teams to play in the NFL at the quarterback position. Denver has given up 24.1 fantasy points to the quarterback position. So, I said Denver, dude. My brain's turned off right now. I got so caught up in the Justin Fields and the Bears. No, the Bears have given up 22.1 points per game at the quarterback position. So, Russ should have a good week this week. I like to throw a streaming option on here for a start every week, just because a lot of you are dealing with that same stuff. So I would start Russell Wilson this week against Chicago. I think is a good matchup, and he'll get some good production. Rick, who you got as a start this week?
I like the Russ pick. I had him as my sit of the week last week. Okay. He got 15 points. Oh. But I think that he's going to have a really good week. Chicago, Denver, side note, that's either going to be really high scoring or really low scoring.
That could be.
Because both those teams kind of suck.
Or not.
So I don't know what's going on.
Could
Mine
be
is
complete
Trevor
disaster
Lawrence
or no.
versus the Falcons.
Okay.
I'm a little nervous because I just realized that this is a London game.
Sure. Oh,
And
oh,
yeah, those
oh, we're already doing that, huh?
we are. And you never know with these games. They're always wild cards. But here's the thing.
Can't wait for the Pats to play in Germany and for me to wake the frick up at 9:30 to watch the Patriots. That's what
Trevor
it's like on the
Lawrence,
West Coast, though.
first 3 weeks of the season, has been extremely mid. Mid to even bad. 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's the QB 20. Now, I guess I've seen some clips on the internet because I haven't watched a ton of the Jaguars games so far this year. There was like in against the Chiefs, there was 3 drop touchdowns in that game, separate plays. And then I guess this week Calvin Ridley dropped a touchdown. So there's been a lot of drops, I guess,
Yikes.
which I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing because is
Somebody's
that going to
gonna
fix
get on
itself?
the
Who knows?
wide receiver coach.
I think Trevor Lawrence is really good. I think the Jaguars offense is really good.
Mm-hmm.
They have sucked so far this year. I think I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, and I'm going to say they're going to turn it around. And I think it's going to start this week against the Falcons, who have a decent defense and have played decent this year. But they're not a great defense. They're not elite defense. According to Fantasy Pros, it is still a good matchup.
Yeah.
It's going to be in a dome. I know it's London, so that is a wild card, but it's in a dome. We could see a lot of high volume passing. I feel like this is the week where the Jaguars get back on track. If not, I would the sirens are going off. If they suck this week against the Falcons and Trevor Lawrence sucks this week against the Falcons, sirens are going off.
Okay, here we go. We're gonna put your feet to the fire.
I am.
DraftKings passing props.
Okay.
Trevor Lawrence over or under 1.5 touchdowns.
Over.
Bricks for hands, wide receivers, all included?
Yep.
Okay.
If I'm wrong about this, though, like I said, sirens.
We got Trevor Lawrence over 242 or under.
I'm gonna go over.
Oh, that's a hefty game right there.
I'm saying 272 touchdowns with a little bit of rushing.
All right.
It's not crazy.
All right, there you go. I wonder
Nothing
what his
crazy.
rushing prop is for the game.
It's probably 18 yards.
Rushing
19 yards.
He's not even on the prop. Oh yeah, he is. 13.5.
Oh, I'll take the over on that too.
Yeah. Oh! Max rushing over under was 7 last week. I should have hit that real hard.
Yeah, there you go.
Max a rushing quarterback now. So. All right, let's talk about our QB sits of the week. I got Deshaun Watson versus Baltimore. Listen, Deshaun Watson's terrible. He's terrible. He's not good. And you might have had some okay fantasy matchups, but there's just
he played really good this week.
Yeah, he was.
He looked like old Deshaun Watson.
All right, see, get off the facing the freaking.
I'm getting on the hype train.
Get out of here, dude.
I don't like this matchup though.
He's actually had some decent fantasy matchups on the season with some rushing. So it's been okay, but against Pittsburgh last week, he had 13 fantasy points, which is a tougher matchup.
Yeah,
he's going up against Baltimore this week, so I don't anticipate him having, a really spectacular game against this team. He'll probably end somewhere around that same 13-point threshold, 13 to 15 points. There's better options out there, so I would sit Deshaun Watson this week at Baltimore.
Yeah. That's fair. I'm a little higher on Watson than you are, but it's not a great matchup, and Watson is kind of a wild card.
Baltimore's giving up 13 fantasy points a game to the quarterback position too, so that's right. That's right in the ballpark of not having a great week for Deshaun Watson.
Totally fair. My guy is Dak Prescott. The Patriots defense has been really good this year. I think they're in the top 5 for defenses versus quarterbacks. Just a really tough matchup for Dak, who honestly, even without the tough matchup, hasn't been great this year. He had a good matchup against Arizona, and he sucked. He had a good matchup against the Giants, and he sucked. And then his toughest matchup against the Jets. Oh, geez, excuse me.
Whoa!
Had 19 points, so maybe he's good against tough matchups, and I end up being wrong here. But
yeah. I'm
not starting him against Pats. He hasn't been well this year anyway, and against a tough matchup just makes it even worse.
Yeah, Dallas Cowboys are one of the worst teams in red zone efficiency in the league. They get to the red zone the most out of any team in the league, I believe.
Well, they don't know what to do.
And then they forget how to play football, I guess. So I would be nervous about any quarterback against New England, with the exception of maybe Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen.
Yep.
All right, let's move to the running back position. I'll give my running back start here. This one, I spelled it wrong. This one is interesting. It's Najee Harris. And
Whoa.
Harris has been a butthole the last couple weeks. He's been a straight
Every
trash
week.
can. He's been every week, yeah.
5 points a week.
The snap percentages have been split right down the middle between him and Jaylen Warren and everyone else, so things have not gone in a positive direction snap percentage-wise for Najee Harris. I think they are trying to keep him healthy, and that's why Jaylen Warren.
And they like Jaylen Warren.
And they do like Jaylen Warren, but I think it's more or less like we don't need to put our, star, quote star, running back on the field 100% of the time, But anyway, so he just hasn't been great on the season. But one thing I will say, you want to see him get the one thing that people anticipated him getting is pass catching. That has been going a little bit to Jaylen Warren, and he only has 6 targets on the season, which is not good. That's like Derrick Henry. But he does get a large total of, if the Pittsburgh Steelers aren't losing, he does get a large total of rushing work. In the game, he had 19 carries for only 65 yards, but 19 carries is really good. He's going up against Houston this week, and I would anticipate that they try to get him involved a little bit more. It would be beneficial for them to do that. And Houston gives up a lot of fantasy points to the running back position generally, so I think it's 24.2. So even if he's splitting right down the middle on the fantasy points too, he'll get somewhere around 13 or 14, which is a decent week. But if he ends up being the main, because he's like, they're not going to put Jaylen Warren in the red area. They're going to put freaking Najee Harris. So I expect Najee to have a decent week this week. At this point, it's okay if you're out on Najee Harris. Like, I'm kind of out on him too. He has not been playing well at all, but I think he's a decent start this week, so you can roll him out in your lineups.
Yeah, that's a risky one, but I don't hate it at all because I do love the matchup there.
Considering my track record last week, I probably should have taken safer ones, but I'm not about that.
I don't hate it though. It is a great matchup, and he's still got work. It's just the passing is low. And this is I'm starting him this week in a league because Mike Williams tore his ACL, so I need another flex, and Najee's been on my bench, so I'm like, okay, well, I don't have anyone else better, so I'm starting Najee this week. I will say this is kind of my last straw. If he sucks this week, I'm done. I'm out. For me, my start of the week at running back is Javonte Williams. Okay. Same game as your Russell Wilson and Broncos pick with the Chicago Bears defense, which is Swiss cheese. Right now, it's I think probably 32 out of 32, or it's at least bottom 5. And they've really struggled against the run as well.
Yeah.
I know Isaiah Pacheco had a rushing touchdown this week. McKinnon had a big week as well in the Chiefs. And Javonte, first 3 weeks of the season hasn't been great, but he hasn't been brutal either. It's a little bit better than Najee. Najee's getting like 5 points a week. Javonte's getting like 8 or 9. So he's coming off the torn ACL, right? So he wasn't, I don't think, at full strength. I still don't think he is at full strength.
Yeah. But
he is progressing with each week. I think we're going to start to see more of Javonte as the season goes on. So I expect him. I think this could be the first week where we really see Javonte Williams coming back to form against the Bears. It's just a really good matchup for him. I could easily see a touchdown in this game, which he has not gotten yet this year. And if he does that with like 13, 14 touches, he's going to have a pretty good week. And this could finally be the week where we're like, okay, we can finally feel comfortable playing Javonte Williams.
I like it. I got a risky one for my sit of the week at running back. It's James Conner at San Fran. James Conner, RB9 on the season.
Yeah, dude.
He's been pretty good.
He has been.
San Fran, I think, is going to, the Cardinals, they just came off a shocking victory against the Dallas Cowboys, and they're going to be flying high, and they're going to run into a buzzsaw. An absolute chainsaw massacre buzzsaw on Sunday in San Francisco. So I think the offense, I would be surprised if they score like 14 points And that might, I'm going to get a ton of hate if.
You gotta take in the trash time touchdown though.
Yeah, hey, it might happen, but
it'll be 30-7.
So anyway, James Conner though, against this matchup, like San Fran obviously has a really good defensive line. They have a good defensive front, and I would imagine this is going to be a game that they're chasing in, which is not positive game script wise for James Conner. So. He is a dude that gets some pass catching work, but not a ton of it. I think he has 8 targets on the season, 3 games. So he's not the primary pass catching back. So I anticipate that, if this game goes in a negative direction, they're going to abandon the run game. They're going to go straight to the pass game and stuff like that. And it's going to, hurt James Conner's production. It could not go that way and they could score some touchdowns and be in a good situation. But the last 2 weeks, he's had 16 and 19. He's also scored a touchdown in 2 straight games. So he's due to not score a touchdown.
Yes.
So I would sit James Conner this week and put him in for somebody else. Yeah,
I agree. Connor's been great, but this feels like it could be a massacre.
He also, weirdly enough, has had a small decrease on a week-to-week basis of snap percentage. 84 week 1, 72 week 2, 64 week 3. And I don't know what that
will
means.
Be that's going to be interesting to watch.
It's been like a negative incline of what you see for fantasy points because week 1, 12, 16, 19.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. So
it's interesting. For me, it's Rachaad White. White has been up and down to start the season.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to continue to be down, though, against the Saints. It's just a really tough matchup. The Saints' defense has been really good this year, especially to running backs. They're one of the best in the league so far this season. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I don't expect a touchdown out of White. And I think at this point, White is he has a floor because of his pass catching. So he's going to get you like 7-8 points. But in order for him to have a really big week, he needs to have touchdowns. I don't think it's going to happen in this game against the Saints.
Okay, fair enough.
He's also very inefficient on the ground, so I don't think that's changing against New Orleans.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know about Tampa, man. They're either good or bad. Depends on the week. Let's move to the wide receiver position. I have Tutu Atwell, surprising one, against Indianapolis. Now, Indianapolis... on the season, they're just not like a super great football team. They do have good defensive features, but they still give up a ton of fantasy points at different positions. This week, 34.9 fantasy points given up on average through 3 games to the wide receiver position. So this should be a good week for Tutu. This should be a good week for Puka Nacua, and you should see some production from those guys. But Atwell has been a sneaky contributor. Everyone's talked about, Puka Nacua for this football team. They haven't really been talking about Tutu Atwell, who has been averaging basically 9 targets a game, and he has 17, 15, and 17 on the season, and only 1 receiving touchdown. So he's getting work. He's putting up fantasy points. He's getting a high snap percentage. He's been on the field. And they like going to him. And I think this is going to be, another good week for Tutu Atwell. He'll probably get another 8 to 9 targets. And against a matchup like Indianapolis, I can't help but not start the guy. So, if you need a second, third flex, Tutu Atwell definitely got to be on your list. And he might be on your waiver wire possibly. So I would run out and, either grab him, snag him or whatever and start him this week.
Yeah, I think that's fair. He's been really solid to start the year. This could be a cop-out. Some people might say it's a cop-out.
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel that way. But my start of the week is T. Higgins, and I know you're probably starting him no matter what. But there are leagues, and there's people that I know personally.
Yeah.
That one of them asked me, who is very like a casual fantasy football player that I know.
Mm-hmm.
He asked me if he should bench T. Higgins this week. And I was like, dude, no. It's because of how inconsistent he's been. He had 0 points in week 1. We all know the 8 target, 0 catch game. Then he exploded in week 2. And then last week, Monday Night Football, 8 targets again, 2 catches, 4 fantasy points. He's been just a roller coaster. I think it's mostly due to Burrow's injury.
Mm-hmm.
He had a couple uncatchable balls. This week, though, he did not play. There was 2 plays where I think he had 2 drops.
Yeah.
So he definitely could have had a better week, but it is partly to do with the Burrow injury. Against Tennessee this week, Tennessee has been awful against pass catchers. I think Burrow gets 1 week healthier. I think this is another 20-plus point week out of T. Higgins.
Yeah.
This is just kind of the ride that you signed up for, at least to start the year. I think as the year goes on and Burrow gets healthier, we're going to see a more consistent T. Higgins. But even last year, he kind of had his ups and downs. But his ups are really high, and I think this week is going to be a 20-plus point week. Faux
show. Let's move to the wide receiver sits. I had Gabe Davis versus Miami. I always do this to Gabe. Gabe the babe. Miami's actually been pretty good defensively on the year. They are kind of mediocre when it comes to giving up fantasy points to the wide receiver position, but I think this is a week where because Diggs hasn't had an explosion game. Said just normal 15 to 20 point weeks. So this
week 1 he did 26.
Oh, that's true. Does that count? I want a 30 plus point game. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
That's what I'm looking for. But no, I don't think Gabe Davis is going to be a guy that's going to catch a touchdown in this game. In fact, the guy that I think is going to catch a touchdown in this game is my tight end start of the week, which I'll get to in a second. So I would sit Gabe Davis this week versus Miami. There's other weeks where you can get him in.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, last week he had 1 catch for 35 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
That's just the most Gabe Davis week ever.
That's literally the Gabe Davis week.
I would definitely be nervous about him. Yeah. My sit of the week is the same as last week, and I was actually wrong about him last week.
Celebrating the week 1 catch from Pat Freiermuth for the same amount of yards and a touchdown.
True. Like, yes! Mine's Hollywood Brown. Hollywood, I had him as a sit last week.
Yeah.
Because I thought the Cowboys were going to destroy the Cardinals, and I was wrong. And Hollywood had a touchdown, 17 fantasy points. Really
double down, baby.
I'm doubling down. You're playing the 49ers. The 49ers are going to kill him.
Yeah.
I don't expect a touchdown this game. Now, could he get some trash time points? I think that's a real possibility. But I don't think it's going to be enough where he's worth a start.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're looking at probably like 8 fantasy points out of him.
For sure.
Just like week 1. And probably 6 of those 8 points is going to come in the fourth quarter. So I don't like Hollywood this week. I don't expect a touchdown.
Yeah.
The only way he has a good game this week is volume to me.
Mm-hmm.
Which could happen, but I wouldn't rely on it. So I'm not starting Hollywood.
Rick and I are going to be watching the Chicago-Denver game and San Fran Cardinals game, I guess. Make sure.
I think I'll pass on that.
Starts and sits.
Maybe Broncos Bears because there's a little fantasy implication, but I'm good on the
Let's finish this up with tight ends. I have at my start this week at tight end Dalton Kincaid versus the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, you changed it. I thought it was Knox.
I did. I changed it to Kincaid. Like I said, I don't think Gabe Davis is catching a touchdown. I think Dalton Kincaid's catching a touchdown.
Whoa,
I think you can start him this week.
Touchdown?
I actually like if you're if you're in a bad spot at tight end, right? Shoot your shot. I don't expect big games, like huge games out of either one of these guys. But, like, if you see Dawson Knox on the waiver wire, just
shoot your shot.
Shoot your shot. So, there's not really, like, I was trying to find a tight end that wasn't, like, an automatic start already, and I really couldn't find one this week that was not. Like, I love Sam Laporta and Luke Musgrave in this Thursday Night Football game, but this show's probably coming out after that. So, I can't put him on this list. But Kincaid, I think, should be fine this week. They do like to target him, so hopefully they go back to, like, he had 5 and 6 targets in week 1 and 2. This past week, he didn't get as many. I think he had 1, right?
That game, he had 2. It was a blowout, though.
Yeah, so he had 2 targets. You know, you would anticipate in a blowout that they would get him on the field and get him running around and see.
Is that a good thing, though, that they kind of didn't play him in the?
But if he does get 5 or 6 targets, I think this is a good week for him to catch a touchdown and all that stuff. I think the Bills are going to be on because they already lost a divisional game to the friggin' Jets, so should be a good week for Dalton Kincaid or Dawson Knox.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm going to give you two guys that I like. One that's more obvious than the other. The obvious one is Darren Waller.
The Walrus.
People are panicking on Twitter about him. He's another panic play. I watched the Thursday night game and I was on Twitter and people were literally saying like he's the bust of the year and stuff. I'm like, dude, he's a tight end, right? He got 5 points against the 49ers. That's gonna happen. All right. Unless you're Travis Kelce.
People have no chill.
It's going to happen.
No patience.
This week is his bounce back week against the Seahawks. It's a great matchup. It's a bounce back for Daniel Jones. It's a bounce back for Darren Waller. It's a bounce back for the Giants offense. I don't know if they're going to win the game, but it's going to look better than what it did versus the 49ers. I'm pretty confident about that. And Waller's a big part of the offense. Even last week against the 49ers, where he only had 5 fantasy points, he still had 7 targets. So he's still the number one quote-unquote receiver in that offense. I'm expecting a big week from him. And then a deeper play that I really like if you don't have a lot of options is Gerald Everett. With Mike Williams out, I think Gerald Everett is going to be more involved in the passing game now, kind of like he was last year where he had a couple big weeks here and there. He ended up being the tight end 13. I think he's going to kind of be that again. He had 9 fantasy points this week against Minnesota. He's playing the Raiders. It's a great matchup, and I think more targets will come his way.
Sure thing. All right. Last 2. Sits of the week. Kyle Pitts, you're done. You're done. You're out of here, kid. You suck. He did have a couple of opportunities for some touchdowns. Don't know whose fault it was. But Kyle Pitts is going up against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's been surprisingly good defensively so far this year. And I'm just not interested in starting Kyle Pitts anymore. This is it. I'm cutting it dry. We're done. We're done with Kyle Pitts. Sit him until further notice.
Yeah, I agree. And then mine, going with your Deshaun Watson stack of sits, I have David Njoku against the Ravens. Not a great matchup. And Njoku's been really underwhelming to start the year. He's like their third, fourth option in the passing game. So I'm out on Njoku.
We got a lot of the same games here.
I know we do.
It's kind of scary, to be honest with you. If you want to find out if our starts and sits were good, just watch 4 football games.
Yep.
All right, there are your starts and sits for the week. We still got buys and sells or trade targets on the next episode. Be sure to check that out, and then we'll send you off for the weekend. See you later, guys. Bye.
Peace out.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.